I'm Marci, and I have a business called Feline Behavior Solutions, and I work with a lot of cats who have behavioral issues. One of the most common things, of course, is cats going outside of the litter box, and so that's what I'm going to talk about today.
How many people in here are veterinarians or work in a veterinary office? Okay, cool. All right, so this presentation is for you guys. And I wanted to present some information to help you. I know a lot of people, the first thing they do when their cat starts going outside of the box is go to their vet, and then they get their urine tested. Nothing shows up, and then the vet says, well, it's behavioral, so good luck with that. I mean, I know a lot of vets know a lot of stuff about behavior and litter box issues, but a lot of times my clients are like, yeah, my vet didn't really know what to do other than say, contact a behaviorist. And I'm like, okay, well, all right. So this is going to be some basic information for that respect. And then there's also, how about people who work in shelters or volunteer in shelters? Okay, so you guys are on the front lines when you adopt an animal out, and then they call back up and say, hey, my cat's going outside a litter box. What do I do? I want to give you some information that you can pass along to clients that will enable them to potentially fix a problem that has an easy solution and help increase your retention rates for animals that get adopted out. The handout, I think most of you have it. Most of the information in that I'm going to be presenting today, and you will have a digital copy of that. So feel free to pass those on to clients if they ask for them. And then finally, how many people have cats here? Woohoo! Me too. I have 5 cats. Well, yeah. So this is a presentation for anybody who just wants to learn more about what cats' needs are. So okay. So I want to talk about what this presentation is actually going to be about. And so there's actually a big difference between marking and inappropriate elimination. So marking, which is cat spraying, and that can be both horizontal and vertical spraying. You've all seen cats do it. And middening, which is pooping, those are both used to mark territory, and also it can be a sign of stress in a cat. And this is not really what I'm going to be talking about today. It'll come up occasionally, but for the most part, I'm going to be talking about inappropriate elimination. And that is when cats need to go to the bathroom, but either there's something wrong with their litter box, so they have a litter box avoidance issue or a litter box dissatisfaction issue. Inappropriate elimination can be caused by stress-related issues, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end of my presentation. And then there's also, of course, a lot of medical issues. So when there's a medical issue, a cat might associate the litter box with pain, so they avoid the litter box in that case. And then they also might be saying, hey, there's something wrong, and I need to get your attention. So in terms of the medical stuff, I always refer my clients to veterinarians. I mean, if you have a cat that's peeing outside the litter box or pooping outside of the litter box, you're going to need to see a vet before talking to me, just so that we can easily rule out some of the basic stuff. Any changes associated with your litter box habits of your cat need to be kind of run through your vet first, because there are very serious conditions that occur. Of course, there's the feline lower urinary tract disorder, and with that, you can have urinary tract infections. You can have crystals in the urine, which are often really hard to test for, because the crystals come and go with pH levels, which can change. So sometimes multiple tests are necessary. Cystitis. All those things are medical needs that a cat has that may contribute to going outside of the litter box. 70% of defecation-related litter box problems are a medical issue, and that can be constipation, diarrhea, inflammatory bowel disease. So, I've met cats who just poop outside of the box. I had a client whose cat had feline hyperesthesia syndrome, and he used the box all the time for peeing, but for whatever reason, he would not. He thought he was in the box. We had a camera. We mounted a camera to figure out what he was doing in that situation. He thought he was in the box, and he would just poop outside of the box. The ultimate solution was, and we changed his litter, we changed the box configurations, we changed so many things, but the ultimate solution was actually changing the litter type. We changed it to something he super loved. And when a cat really loves a litter, they will get in there and dig around and dig around and dig around. And that's what actually drew Howie into the box, not just leaving his hind end hanging out. So, there really are a lot of medical issues that that can drive cats to outside of the box thinking. And then I'll just put my plug in for getting your cat spayed or neutered. I've been on chat lists on Facebook. There's a cat behavior Facebook group, and I've seen so many people post, "Help, my cat is going outside the litter box. Help, my cat is spraying." Is your cat neutered? That's like the first question. No, we're waiting. We don't really want to do that right now. Well, why not? Well, we don't have the money or whatever. No, get your cat fixed for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's like number one if your cat's not fixed. Okay, so I want to talk about litter box Pervana for just a minute, because we're going to be going over a lot of suggestions for the perfect litter box setup. And I don't want you to think that you have to go home and change everything about your litter box setup or start recommending things, just you need to do all these things to have the perfect litter box setup. Don't fix what's not broken. If your situation is working for you, that's awesome. These are suggestions for people who don't know how to set up a litter box or don't know what causes cats to go outside of the litter box, or for people who, like veterinarians or shelter workers might be seeing, come back and there's, something has happened and the cat has started going outside of the box and it's not a medical issue. There can be some quick fixes. Some of them are not quick fixes. But you don't need to change everything. And a lot of times, all these recommendations all together, they're really super hard to achieve. I know I don't follow every single rule. It's a compromise between what you can do and what your cats will accept. So a lot of times when you have a cat that starts thinking out of the box, it's going to take time and patience because you're going to have to test a few different things as long as you're cleared medically. And then the other thing is cat tolerance can change over time. So you've had a cat for a few years and everything has been fine, no changes. All of a sudden, what worked one day no longer works the next day. Cats are kind of like, I imagine cats as like, well, many things, but in some ways, they're like a glass, right? And their tolerance level and their stress level can be measured in this glass. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. Sometimes, that glass fills up and, stress level gets high or their level of tolerance is like almost taken up. And then once it reaches the top, it's like, okay, that's, I need to start going outside the litter box for whatever reason. So by tweaking something about the litter box situation, you can take that stress level down or that tolerance level down and get them back into a safe zone in that glass. Oh, and then older cats also, they have changing needs. So one of the most common things is arthritis, and it may be more difficult for a cat to get into a box. So you want to make sure that your boxes are easy to get into, or if your cat is getting older, just keep in mind that they may have a different need for whatever their situation currently is. Okay, so let's talk about litter box dissatisfaction or litter box avoidance. And I'm going to go through a number of different categories here, and most of this stuff is on your sheet. So we're going to talk about location, some general rules about how many boxes you should have, what type of boxes you should have, litter you should use, all these kind of things, how smell plays into the picture. Okay, so this is an easy one. Let's start with this one. How many boxes should you have? And you probably have heard this, but the number of cats you have plus one. So you have 4 cats, you need to have 5 litter boxes. If you have 83 cats, you want to have 84 litter boxes, but please don't have 83 cats. And the reason for this is because some, not all, some cats don't like sharing boxes with other cats, especially cats that smell different, or maybe they're not on friendly terms with in the home. And then also some cats don't like to urinate and defecate in the same boxes. So having an extra box allows them some freedom of choice as to where to go to the bathroom. I have a client right now who has 10 cats, and when I saw her, she had 4 litter boxes. Guess what one of her problems was? So, yeah, putting more boxes in the home was definitely, 800 square feet too, it gets a little tough. Yeah. Okay, next I want to talk about litter box size. So most pet stores will sell these cute little litter boxes. They're so cute and they're fun colors and yay, they're just so cute. But most of them are not in any way, shape, or form big enough for your average American cat. You want to have the litter box be at least as long as 1.5 times the length of the cat, not including its tail. And this is because you want your cat to be able to turn around and scratch and enjoys his toileting experience. If a cat feels crunched in, either in size, like this way, like down, or can't really turn around, or its butt is hanging over, that's not going to be a good situation for anybody. You go into the pet store and you see all those cute little boxes. I had a client just the other day ask me, well, if those boxes are too small, why do they sell them? And I'm like, well, because they're selling them to humans, not cats. Think about it. If you are going to choose a litter box and you have a choice of cleaning out a small, cute litter box versus a normal size, good litter box, the average person is probably going to say, oh, I want to clean out a small litter box because that's going to be easier, right? Well, not if your cat won't use it. So just be safe and go towards the bigger ones. And I always like to recommend either utility totes or under-the-bed storage boxes. Utility totes are great for cats that have elevator butt. And I was just at Furry Friends today. I'm a volunteer there. And we have this new cat, Winston. And I walked into the kitchen. He was in his litter box. And luckily, it was one of those high-sided ones because we have some lower-sided ones in there, too. And he was doing the elevator butt thing, and I was just, watching him, and I was like, please don't go over the edge. Please don't go over the edge. Please don't go over. He didn't. But, those utility boxes are perfect. And then the under-the-bed storage containers are really good for older cats because you can buy pretty low-sided boxes. And you may have some litter spread. Let's see. Oh. Okay, that's in a minute. So the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants just got new posters done by Lily Chin. And so I have all those in the presentation. And this is super cute because, A, there's a super cute cat. But this also shows you kind of something about the ideal litter box. Not motorized, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Low entry, kind of already mentioned that. No liner. this drives me nuts. When I go to people's homes, a lot of times they'll have a liner in the litter box, which is completely pointless because a cat goes in there, scratch, 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 scratch. The plastic gets shredded. The litter goes outside the liner. The cat is like, what the heck is all this stuff? And it's not very pleasurable. And it actually does nothing because the liner gets all shredded and the litter comes out. So just avoid. And then also, it's not covered. Now, some cats do prefer hooded litter boxes, but I'll get to that in a minute. But generally, I recommend no hood or no cover.
Is it best if they're higher in the back than in the front?
Sometimes, this is actually, or that litter box, there are some models like that. Mostly what I'll see in, Nature's Miracle makes actually a pretty good litter box. It's high in the back and then high kind of on the sides, and then it has this dip. So the sides are actually high too. But I actually prefer utility totes, and I'll show you a picture of that coming up. A lot of people don't like cat litter everywhere in their house. I used to play roller derby, and my derby name was Gritty Cat. And I thought it was an awesome name for a couple of different reasons. First, because it sounded tough. And the second was it was really actually quite appropriate because I would get into bed and there'd be cat litter in my freaking bed because the cats would track it all over the place. And that was because we don't really have hoods on our cat litter, and it got everywhere and it just tracked it everywhere. Anyway, long story short, maybe not so short. And so, if you have a low-sided litter box, you definitely want to think about getting a good litter mat that can help stop tracking. And also there are different types of litters that are less trackable, and I'll talk about that too. That totally was me. Okay, so these are the utility totes that I was talking about. So it's just you go to Target, you can buy one of these things, and they're pretty inexpensive. They're actually cheaper than actual litter boxes from PetSmart. And there's a full tutorial on how to make these. Well, they're all over YouTube, but there's a website called Cats Adored, and he goes step by step on how to make these. So the adult cat's litter box has a wider base right here. And you can make this as low as you want for entry, so it's still good for older cats. The kitten's has a narrower cutout right here, but it gets wider, so older cats can still get into it, bigger cats. And then it's also a little bit lower down here. So you may want to move to something a little bit more like this once the kittens grow up so that you don't have litter kind of coming out the front. It's narrower for the kittens just so that they don't bring so much litter out. They can, it can be wider, but for kittens, and kittens, kittens like to play in their litter. I had a kitten, my one, well, she's 6 now, but she would actually roll around in the litter box, and it was like, yeah, everywhere. So I think that is just to really help keep the litter inside. Yeah. And then, of course, it's lower because kittens have shorter legs. Yeah. But this was a really good tutorial on how to do this. And it's actually not very hard. You just want to make sure that these edges are sanded down so that, or you can put tape alongside of them so that cats don't get scratched. Okay, so we're still talking about the box. This is actually that client, Howie, the cat with feline hyperesthesia syndrome, and there are 4 other cats in that home. Those utility totes, this was the most amazing litter box setup I've ever seen in my life. They had an entire room, and the husband built all this custom cat furniture. It was amazing. But I just wanted to show this picture for a couple of reasons. First of all, the utility totes don't have to be horribly ugly. the husband actually had this stencil of a little cat face. And so, and they originally had the lids on, and I asked them to take the lids off. But these were super cute. I was like, oh my gosh, I want this in my house. And then she had coordinated little mats. Now, there is something wrong with this setup. Can anybody pick that out? Well, they're a little close. Yeah, that's one of them. Yes, absolutely. Perches. So I actually had them move the litter boxes out into the middle of the room because all these shelves out here are really great, but cats who are in here can't tell if there's somebody waiting to ambush them up here. And it doesn't really matter if there is or isn't. It can be a perceived threat, which can say, yeah, I don't feel like going into that box. It just doesn't really seem that safe to me. Okay, so who has dogs and cats? All right. So when I first wrote about litter boxes on my website, I got a lot of questions about, well, what happens if you have a dog that likes snacking on Kitty Roka? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. So there are actually a number of things you can do. And not all of them, this is like these all have covers on them, which is not like, again, my preferred way of doing things, but it's better than having your dog eat out of the litter box. So this is a top-loading litter box, and you can easily make one of these by yourself, just how you did with those other utility totes, but you can actually buy them like this. There's the box within a box system. So this filters out the dog head, and your cat can go in here. And then there's also this really cool new technology called SureFlap, and they make feeders as well as these little doors, and they have an RFID tag system in it. So if your cat has a microchip, you can set that to recognize that particular microchip. And this will open only for that microchip. So your dog doesn't have that microchip, your dog's not getting in there. But and this is actually a cat eating this particular picture. They put the food bowls and the water bowls in here so that, it's good for cats with special diets so that the other cats don't get in there, and also the dogs. But there's actually a feeder, a custom feeder. The reader is like this little hoop, and then when the cat puts their head through the hoop, this little flap opens on the feeding tray, and so only that cat with its head through the hoop gets access to that food. And they're pretty cool, so something to consider if you have a little litter box snacking dog. All right, so a big reason why cats sometimes venture outside of the litter box is because they have such an amazing sense of smell. And humans, not so much, which causes some mismatch in our ideas about what cats find acceptable versus not. Cats have really great senses of smell because this is key in forming relationships, so telling who is friend, family, foe, and also identifying territory. So cats really do, when you introduce cats, the first thing you do is introduce them through scent, and you try to associate those scents with good things. And when you can do that, then you move along to visual. Smell is just a huge thing for cats. Cats have about 200 million scent receptors in their nasal epithelium or olfactory epithelium. And this is interesting because dogs, like fox terriers, have 125 million scent receptors. Bloodhounds have the most at 300. But that means that cats have cats have a better sense of smell than many species of dogs. And I don't think people really understood that until more recently. And, dogs they have these, you can train dogs to do all sorts of things, and you can also train cats to do all sorts of things, but cats need a really strong motivator. So it's harder to teach a cat how to fetch or find something with a certain scent, because they're just like, why should I do that? But you do hear stories of cats being able to sniff out cancers in people. Cats can really do a lot of really amazing things. Humans, we only have 5 million lowly scent receptors in our nose. So cats' sense of smell is way beyond what we can detect. They also have the Jacobson's organ. It's kind of in between the roof of their mouth and their nasal passage. And when you see a cat, it's called gaping, or the phlegm response, and it's kind of a funny, they get this funny look on their face, and they're like, and my husband is always laughing at our cats when they do that. But they kind of like have their mouth open a little bit. They'll mostly do that when they smell urine. It detects pheromones, and it's kind of a cross between taste and smell, but it's just another sensory organ to assist them with detecting what's going on with other cats, pheromone-wise. And then, because of all these abilities, smell can be downright uncomfortable for some cats. So think about when you're in that elevator with somebody who wears a lot of heavy perfume, and you just want to oh my God, I'm going to die. But that's kind of where cats are at. Especially, I think the most problematic thing is perfumed litters, and we're going to talk about that. But be careful of things. If you have a really sensitive cat, be careful about detergents, air fresheners, cleaners, and of course litters. This is actually the bag of one of these litters up here. And if you can't read it, it says, "Improved, now with more fragrance for odor control." Yay! And cats are super excited about that. I just had a client, I visited her home, and she has 5 cats. But one cat hides under the couch in the living room all day, and it's a blended cat family, so not getting along with the other cats, and she's marked both with urine and poop all 4 corners of the living room. And the litter boxes are outside in the garage. And I heard something go off in the living room. I was like, what was that? And she's like, oh, it's an automatic air freshener. It goes off every 2 minutes. And so it, A, had this startling kind of burst, and B, it was masking all the scent in the living room. And I was like, that needs to go. Take that out of here, because it's startling the cat, and then also it may be interfering with the cat's ability to smell marks that she's leaving, which is why she keeps marking. Okay. Oops. So back to smell. Let's talk about litter maintenance. People are going to want to make sure that they clean their litter box every single day. Some cats are way more sensitive about cleanliness than others. So some cats may require a couple of cleanings a day. That's a little bit more on the rare side, but I always recommend cleaning every single day. And this is really helpful because you'll be more in tune with your cat's health, especially if they start peeing more or less, or maybe greater volume. That's a sign that your cat needs to be taken to the vet, because there may be some kidney issues happening, again, urinary tract infections, that kind of thing. So cleaning the cat boxes out every day keeps you in touch with how your cat is doing health-wise, and it's also just going to make her a little bit more happier. I highly recommend unscented litter. And it's kind of funny because a lot of brands will say, oh, this doesn't have any scent, this is unscented, and actually one of these brands, because it was the brand I use at home, and I was like, there's perfume in here, I can smell this, it's not unscented. So you have to be careful. Box might say unscented, but they are also made in a place that does have scented litter. So when they get put through the same machinery, there's some of that residual perfume that gets,
And also, I think there's a difference between unscented and fragrant-free.
Yes,
And
they're
I'm very sensitive myself, so I learned this.
right. And I'm not sure exactly what that difference is. So if you know, I'd be happy to.
I'm not sure either.
Right. So Arm & Hammer has unscented and they have fragrance-free. They're both scented. they're both scented. I can smell perfume in both of them. So anyway, just be careful about that. You're going to want to replace all the litter in your boxes every 2 to 4 weeks, but that could be a lot more often depending on which litter you use and how many cats you have and how frequently they go. Like if you have a non-clumping litter, you're going to be wanting to change all the litter out pretty darn frequently, like every couple of days even. So just be aware of that because even if you have clumping litter where you do have a nice little clump of pee and you can go, ooh, yay, gone, that pee has been sitting in that box next to other things that do not get removed, and that scent will carry over into the other particles in that litter. So after a while, that smell builds up in all of the litter because you keep mixing it up after you get the clumps out. And, you might not have any clumps, but that litter still smells of either feces or urine. So you'll need to change that out. And then the funnest thing in the world, washing your litter boxes regularly. I recommend about every month, just use hot water and a mild soap, no bleach because cats don't like the smell of it. Don't use vinegar, that can dry. I'm sorry, we'll talk about vinegar in another slide, but just mild soap, hot water, let it dry, and then I like to sprinkle some baking powder in the bottom. Yay. And then definitely replace your boxes every 6 to 12 months, which is another great reason for getting just a storage bin or a utility tote because they're a lot less expensive than regular litter boxes. Okay, so hoods obviously trap smell in, and ammonia is kind of the big deal with trapping that scent in. So I always recommend no hoods. Plus, in a lot of cases, a lot of boxes, again, are not big enough for cats. And so putting that lid on makes the cat crouch down in kind of an unnatural position. So it's kind of bad for a couple of different reasons. And a lot of people say, well, don't they like their privacy? No, cats really don't care about privacy. That's totally like a human. That's like humans like their privacy when cats don't care. However, I will say that cats like quiet areas. They don't like to be disturbed. And we'll talk about location in a few minutes. They don't like to be disturbed. They don't like loud noises. And so putting your litter box in a location that is more private, that's probably a good thing. But cats in general, they don't care about privacy. Yeah. So the other important thing, and I touched on this with that picture of Howie's litter box setup with the perches. Hoods kind of do the same thing. They block, 3/4 of the view that a cat has when they're inside a litter box. So it prevents them from seeing their surroundings and detecting predators. When a cat goes to the bathroom, like in nature, it's the most vulnerable time for them. And so they need to make sure that they can see everywhere around them. They do not want to be ambushed from behind. Removing the lid from the litter box prevents that from happening. And again, it can be either a real or a perceived threat. You may not have a second cat in the home, but if your cat thinks that there's a chance that, somebody could be sneaking up from behind, even though there isn't, but that's just kind of a natural instinct that cats have. It's, survival. That could be cause for not wanting to use that litter box. Okay, now talk about litter. I know you guys want to get your mitts all up in this. Just a few things first. Cats do prefer about 2 to 3 inches of litter, and of course there are exceptions. Some cats prefer carpet. Dang. And there's a way where you can transfer, you can actually put a carpet remnant in a litter box and then teach your cat who likes to poop on carpet to use the carpet in the litter box, and then you slowly add more litter so they get used to it. Anyway, you don't want to add too little litter simply because then you run the risk of scratching the plastic, and then also cats could be standing in puddles of their own urine, which they tend not to like. And then you don't want to add too much because their paws will sink down into the litter, and they have whiskers on the backs of their legs, which are very sensitive, and sinking into litter and having their leg whiskers messed with is just not a very pleasant thing for them. So somewhere in the middle. Cats generally also like fine-grained clumping litter. The clumps make it easier for cats to kind of push things out of the way, and if they really like their litter, they're scratching around in there, playing, messing around, and you don't have to worry about non-clumping litter getting everywhere in and then having to change the box so easily, so often. So it's really kind of a convenience thing, and it's also actually probably more hygienic. And as I mentioned, cats who like their litter, they spend a lot of time futzing around in it. Sometimes you'll see cats that are just like perched on the edge of their litter box, like, I don't want to touch this stuff at all. And we'll talk about some signs that your cat might not like your litter. But a sign that your cat does like your litter is playing and scratching. Not so much playing, but, scratching and making Stonehenge out of their poops. All right. So probably the most often question I get asked, or the question I get asked most often is, well, what litter is best? And my answer to that is the litter that your cat will freaking use. And, there are litters that are more environmentally sustainable, ingredients that are more natural, so they may be more healthy for your cat. But if your cat doesn't prefer those litters, you can't force them to use that litter. It will just create a lot of headache for you. So even if you have to go with something that's maybe not quite as desirable in your mind, you really do want to use what your cat will accept. Unfortunately, they get to make the decisions about that. So the litter that your cat will use is the best litter you can get. So there are a lot of different types of litter out there, and in just a moment I'll let you guys come up here and test some of these out for yourselves. I mean, don't test them yourself, but I have some like ammonia water, and we can use this. But I just want to kind of go over the categories of what we have. So we have, of course, clumping clay, which is kind of your most standard. Cat litter was actually invented or introduced in 1947. People started bringing their cats inside, but they didn't know really what to give their cats to litter in. So they were using things like ash and sand. Sand is actually a pretty natural ingredient, or a natural substance for cats who evolved in the desert to use. But it wasn't easy to clean, and it wasn't easy to maintain. It's heavy. So somebody came up with the brilliant idea of using clay. I'll go through what each of these are, but these 3 are clay litters. Generally, it clumps well. It's easy to clean. It's inexpensive compared to a lot of other litters, and it has pretty good odor control. Unfortunately, clay litters can also be very dusty, so cats who have sensitive respiratory systems or asthma may have some problems with clay litter. It's sticky, so it adheres to fur, which can then be ingested, and clay litters are not as easy to pass as more natural litters might be. And then we're seeing a lot more plant-based litters. There's wheatgrass, corn, soybean, cedar, pine, walnut. I didn't bring any walnut litter today because people with nut allergies have a hard time with that, and I didn't want anybody needing an ambulance. So I didn't bring that. And these are obviously biodegradable and more sustainable in many cases. And if you have a dog that likes snacking on litter, these are probably safer. Unfortunately, if you have a dog that likes snacking on litter, he's probably going to go more for the natural litters because they smell better. I mean, they smell more like food. You can smell these, and they do smell more like food. And unfortunately, the clumping, a lot of these litters rely on the plant enzymes for their clumping ability, and they say they clump, but they don't really clump. They're liars. They're tricksy and false. Okay, so then we also have these crystals, and there are a few different kinds out on the market now. But one thing that really surprised me is when it gets wet, and it's all a chemical reaction, so the crystals actually absorb moisture, and when the blue goes away, that means it's time to get more stuff. This is not clumping, it just absorbs the moisture. You just have to throw out the solid chunks. The disconcerting thing about this is that when it gets wet, it hisses, and so your cat might not like that. Just saying. And, if it sticks to their fur, it has when you touch it, it does kind of have a weird texture, and it's not very soft on the paws. It is a little bit sticky after it does get wet. It can be stuck to fur and then ingested, and that's probably not very good. Let's see. Oh, recycled paper. I didn't bring any recycled paper, but I did bring this, and I'll explain what this is in a minute. I've seen recycled paper litter in these kind of larger pellet size things, great at absorbing moisture, but you have to replace it all the time because it has no clumping ability whatsoever, and it doesn't disguise any of the odor at all. But it's super cheap. A lot of shelters use that kind of litter. All right. So another thing to really look out for is texture and granule size. And I have a range of things going on here. So we have the large pellets, again, like this size. And, recycled paper and some of the natural litters will be this size. I saw a green tea leaf litter, and it was this size. Those are actually good for larger cats. Because it distributes their weight a little bit better in the litter, and so they don't sink down into the litter as much. But it doesn't clump, so that's kind of bad. It's also better for longer-haired cats because it won't stick to their fur because they're such big chunks, so that's good. And then there's a small pellet, which I don't really have too much of right here. You might look at something like this. It's kind of in between this size and the larger pellet. And that clumps a little bit better because it has increased surface area on those pellets. So there's more moisture and it sucks the pellets together. It doesn't track as much as the granules. And it's kind of a mid-range litter that balances odor control and cost. But again, it may not clump as well, and it also can contain additives which you might not want your cat accidentally ingesting or coming into contact with. So the granules is what we have mostly up here. And this is a lot softer on paws. So for indoor-only cats, they have less if you have an outdoor cat, your cat is used to walking around on tough surfaces, and so their pads become a little tough. They don't really care. But indoor cats have more sensitive pads, and also cats who have been unfortunately declawed. So you definitely don't want them to have something that's this texture to stand on, because this is a little bit hard and a little uncomfortable. But these type of litters also really do track quite a bit. But they have excellent odor control. They clump really well. And on short hair cats, it doesn't really stick to their fur very much. So longer hair cats, this will kind of stick all over the place. Here are some things to look for if your cat, might be dissatisfied with your current litter. So again, perching on the side of your litter box, like she doesn't want to touch this stuff, that's a big sign. If your cat's butt hangs over the side of the litter box, because she's not in it, like Howie, that's a sign. Not digging around in the litter and not covering up the waste. Some cats just don't bury the waste. They're just like that. So these aren't like surefire signs like, oh my God, I need new litter. Some cats just don't want to bury their waste, regardless of what litter's happening. But if you have one or more of these signs, you might want to consider something. So not covering up their pee and poops is one of those signs. Meowing on the way to the litter box, like, oh, dang it. That's like cats will, like when they approach the litter box, they can sometimes kind of meow and like, oh man, this sucks. And I know I'm anthropomorphizing, but it happens. Shaking their feet a lot when they leave the litter box. This means that the litter is really sticking to their fur. They don't like it. It's clingy. You might want to consider a litter that tracks less, sticks to the fur less. And then also, of course, occasionally thinking outside the box. So occasionally peeing and pooping outside the box is like, okay, might need a change. All right. So changing litters is actually fairly simple. There's basically 3 ways that you can do it. There's the preference test where you have a box of your old litter and a box of the new litter and see which one they start using. If your cat starts using the new litter, hey, that's great. You can just fill up the old box with the new litter and get rid of the old litter. And then there's the gradual switcheroo where you choose a litter that's very similar to the old litter, and then you just mix it in. You start mixing it in gradually. Every time you change the litter or scoop out litter, you just keep adding a little bit more and more and more so that you ultimately only have the new litter. What I like is a combination method, because if you start adding a new litter to your old litter and your cats don't like it, they can sometimes stop using your litter box. So what I like doing is actually giving them some options, having boxes with separate litters, seeing which ones they like, and then doing the gradual mix-in if it's a compatible type of litter. So like if you're switching various natural litters or these, I tried mixing the corn litter into this. That didn't work so well. But the combo method is kind of what I like, or what my cats like. All right. So kind of moving through location. Multiple access routes are super important. Again, we had 5 cats in my old house. We had all the litter boxes downstairs in the basement. It was a finished basement. It was really nice. So it wasn't the grungy, scary haunted house basement. But we had all the litter boxes down there. And all of a sudden, one day, Abby, I was in the bathroom, she hops up on the counter, and she pees in the sink right in front of me. And I'm like, that is weird. But she seemed fine, so I was like, okay, we might have to take her in. Maybe something's wrong. And then later that night, she pooped right next to my side of the bed. In the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, God, what was that? And, there's like a pile right there. And what happened was Momo, one of our other cats, decided to just be a total butthead, and she decided Abby was no longer allowed in the basement. So Abby no longer had access to any of the litter boxes. So that's what you see here. You need to make sure you have multiple access points to multiple box locations. Otherwise, this cat is just going to find someplace else to go. So again, multiple locations in the home. So you need to have not only multiple access routes, but you have to have multiple litter box stations. And then no barriers to those. One of my first clients that I ever met, her cat was going outside of the box, and the litter box was in the laundry room, but there was a baby gate across the door to the laundry room. And this was an older cat, and so the cat had to hop over the baby gate, which is not necessarily the best way to go. And then also you want to spread out your boxes so that the box is not just perceived as one big box. Because again, some cats don't like sharing, or they like to do different things in different boxes. So make sure that they're not all clumped together in one area. All right. Okay, so this gets back to the kind of the privacy thing that I was talking about. Out in the open or tucked away. Again, a cat wants kind of a clear, uninhibited, I think that's the right word, view of the entire, but at the same time, so you want to avoid traffic, but at the same time you want to avoid places that are like cold garages, cold basements, places where the people never go, because cats like to be in the same place with their people, and so they don't like to go completely out of the way to go to the bathroom. This is back in the day. Keep your litter boxes away from food and water, please. Naturally, in nature, cats do not eat or drink water where they defecate and urinate. And actually, they don't even really like to eat near their water sources, because there's potential for contamination, which cats know all about, of course. But yeah, please away from food and water. And then also away from noisy machines. So laundry rooms are kind of a bad idea, because some people's dryers make a horrible buzzing noise at the end of the cycle, which can be very scary. And really, it only takes once for a cat to get scared permanently off a litter box. So near water heaters, furnaces, washer dryers, those are things I never recommend. And then also, a really nice thing to do for your cats is have a nightlight. I have those automatic night lights that come on. You just plug them in, and it comes on when they get dark. Cats have really good sight in low-level environments, but they can't see in complete dark. So this gets back to helping a cat feel safe and secure in their litter box environment. So shit will happen. And so I just wanted to give you some tips on what I recommend for cleaning products. I love, and I think the most effective thing is enzymatic and bacterial cleaners for cat urine, which is the most terrible substance on the planet. The enzymes and bacteria will break down the urine crystals, which nothing else dissolves them ever. And one of the cleaners I really like a lot is called anti-icky poo. And it's much stronger than Nature's Miracle. Yeah, it's like 30 times stronger than Nature's Miracle. And then there's a newer product on the market, which is also enzymatic, and it's called Get Serious. They make a formula for both dogs and cats, but this is the only one I know of that can remove pheromones. So if you have a cat that's actually spraying and marking, this takes some of the pheromones out. So the tough thing with the enzyme cleaners is that you pretty much have to saturate the area. So carpets and furniture and stuff like that, you need to saturate it, and then the enzymes work as they dry. And so it takes a little while for the problem to be completely fixed. I recommend zero odor. They have a pet formula. And what I do is just mist it above that spot. And it's really great at removing odor as something like that works. You don't want to spray it directly on top of an enzyme cleaner, because cleaning products, so any kind of cleaning product with detergent or soap in it, it will kill the enzymes. So if you use it before, you try to clean something out before you use an enzyme cleaner, the leftover detergent in the fabric will kill the enzyme, the good enzymes and the good bacteria. So you don't want to ever do that. Or if you do, just go back and rinse really well with water. Professional carpet cleaners, they often have pet-friendly and pet-appropriate cleaners that are enzyme-based, so make sure you ask for that if you want to do that. And then there's carbon dioxide-based cleaners for hard surfaces. I've tried Fission. I really like that one. For me, it didn't really work so well on soft surfaces, so I stick to the enzyme stuff for soft surfaces. Vinyl carpet runner is great to put underneath your boxes if you have to set it on carpet. Just an FYI. And you can buy this by the roll, or it comes in little boxes too, and it's really inexpensive. Okay, so a few things to not do. Do not toilet train your cat. I know this sounds like such an awesome thing to try to do. It is not. Super unnatural position for a cat to be in, and it's actually not that clean. If you go into somebody's bathroom who has a toilet-trained cat, there's pee and poop everywhere, because oftentimes they don't learn how to flush either. So there's that. And then if they happen to slip into the toilet, that can really frighten them, and they will stay away from the toilet. And then finally, a lot of times the habit doesn't stick forever because you're not giving them rewards forever. You're just like, oh, okay, you're trained now, yay. And then the cat is like, okay, I'm done with this eventually. And then there's no litter boxes out because you've put them all away. So they will start going outside of the toilet, which leads to bigger problems. So just stay away. I also recommend staying away from motorized litter boxes and gimmicky setups, kind of like this one over here. Noises can startle cats. Malfunctions can startle cats. It's a good way to keep your cat out of the litter box. And these are often designed for people, not cats. Okay, so if you have a cat that's indoor-outdoor, always make sure that there's access to a litter box no matter where your cat is. Some cats actually don't really like going outside, going to the bathroom outside, and will prefer to use a litter box. My mom is a professional pet sitter, and she pet sits a lady who has a cat and only lets her cat out in the morning and the evening, lets the cat out to go to the bathroom, but then is otherwise locked in the house the rest of the day and night without a litter box. And this person is having problems with the cat. So some people just, the cat's not a dog. So I don't know, your cat just needs a choice. All right, so I just had 2 slides on stress-related soiling because in addition to litter box dissatisfaction, stress is a huge factor in whether or not your cat will go outside the litter box. So there's stress that results from relationships. So this cat here, there's some resource competition going on. And also this cat may not like that cat or whatever. So competition for resources is a big deal. There's fear or aggression between cats and other animals in the house. Insecurity or lack of confidence. Perhaps tension with other humans in the house. This can often cause soiling outside of the house. Usually when a cat soils on a bed or clothes, that's often thought to be a sign of the cat being anxious around their guardians, their humans, and the cat is trying to mix scents together so that it makes him a little bit more confident when he smells himself with the human scent. I mean, that's kind of the thinking. Of course, I haven't asked any cats, but working on that relationship between the cat and the human often helps. Lack of physical stimulation and lack of mental stimulation is a huge issue. A lot of people think that cats can just hang out inside and sleep all day, but cats are predators. They're wild animals. They've not been domesticated very long, if really at all. I mean, let's face it, these are small carnivores that we allow to live in our house, and they run around. And if you don't allow them to act like predators, they get very frustrated, very stressed out, and they can start going outside of the litter box. I recommend play to almost all of my clients who have litter box issues. So disturbances or changes, so loud noises, sometimes strangers coming into the home can cause stress. There's territorial issues, and also, of course, medical stress, like not even urinary tract infections or anything like that, but if there's something else going on, the cat does not feel well, going outside of the box is potentially a way of that cat expressing the stress of not feeling well. So basically when your cat's needs are not being met, the litter box and avoiding the litter box is one of the best ways for the cat to like say, hey, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. A cat will never go to the bathroom outside of the litter box out of spite or revenge. Cats just don't think like that. So some solutions, and I briefly mentioned these. So you're going to want to decrease competition for resources, which includes multiple litter box stations, multiple food stations, space. So you're going to want to catify by adding shelves and perches, and also making sure you have access to all these resources. Play is hugely important. You want to take your cat through the prey sequence, which is where the cat stares at something and gets fixated on it and then starts stalking it. I'm a fearsome predator. And then pounces on it and then finally gives it a kill bite. So make sure your cat is going through that entire sequence. Give them a little treat, like, yay, you caught something and then killed it. Good job. And that helps get them into the hunt, eat, groom, sleep cycle. It's very natural. So that is a really great way to reduce stress. And there are also many other forms of enrichment, but going through the prey sequence with a wand toy is like, I cannot recommend that highly enough. Make any changes to the home very gradually, especially if you have a sensitive cat. Even moving around furniture can be stressful. So moves, try to do things gradually. I like bringing in boxes slowly, even though I know cats like boxes. As gradual as you can is good. And then slow introductions with either new cats, other pets in the home, children, strangers. These are all things that can potentially stress out cats. And then, of course, you're going to want to see a veterinarian for any pain-related stress issue that your cat might be experiencing. So that is pretty much it. There are a lot of things related to litter box maintenance and, keeping your cat in the litter box. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate your willingness to stick in here.